2012, year of our Lord.
We'll sue you, Angelica.
Peak comedy. Guys, bad news. Our longtime partner THQ has gone under. We don't have anyone to make our slop for us. What do we do? Said Consumer Products President Leigh-Ann Brodsky. Who's that? Oh, it's Simmer. Hi, Acting CEO Simmer Zagami. Hey guys, sorry I'm covered in blood. I've just been kicking Big Time Rush, Sam and Cat, and some of our other beloved shows down a flight of stairs. I heard you guys talking about video games. Hell, I barely understand cartoons, but yeah, let's talk about video games. Simmer. THQ was busy hitting the gritty and forgot to actually make anything good the past few years, so they're hitting the zesty down in hell right now. So we gotta find someone else for our games. Dude, it's 2012. Who still plays video games? Just give it to some rando company that'll treat it like dirt. They'll teach the kids to stop playing video games. We only care about SpongeBob now. That's why all our other shows have suddenly come upon stair-related accidents. Let's just license it out. We can license SpongeBob out to Activision. They hate themselves almost as much as we do. Perfect. And thus began the dark ages of Nickelodeon's video games. What was once an epicenter for creative, fun, cheap AA experiences was now swallowed entirely by the greed and poor handling of Activision. Welcome to Bikini Bottom Inquirer. So we all know that in the late 2010s, THQ was well past their golden years. They've been busting it down too zesty for too long and lost track of both the market, but also just, well, a sane way of operating a company. We won't get into it too much as there are hundreds of videos on the subject, but prior to their collapse, Nickelodeon and THQ had a really strong working relationship and had created some absolute bangers. I truly believe that at the time, due to their partnership and THQ's ability to bring on strong developers for the games, Nickelodeon was the absolute best in the space for video games, leaving other companies like Cartoon Network and even Disney behind with sheer volume and quality. Lots of misses, but when you just won't stop shotgun blasting out media, you get some hits. Nickelodeon went with the if it ain't broke, break them with so many games approach. We all know about the big hitters, the SpongeBob titles that sold millions of copies, released on every platform, but there were some absolutely fantastic titles that released during this time. The Nicktoons games, hype as hell, Nickelodeon Pie Blast, I fucking love them! Rugrats Royal Ransom, peak. The TAC games, and they existed. Jimmy Neutron Attack the Twonkies, literally the highest quality game Nickelodeon had ever released at that stage. The Hey Arnold movie game was also pretty damn good. Not to mention dozens of DS titles, Avatar games, and so many SpongeBob titles. Can I just say, this system fundamentally works. We live in a time where games apparently cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and if they aren't the biggest thing in the absolute world, the studio crashes and burns and completely collapses. But this is all during a time when game development is easily accessible and cheaper than ever before, proven by the success of the indie market. Getting into video games and making games has never been easier, yet we can only make these hundreds of millions of dollars experiences. Nickelodeon had the concept on lock. Shorter games, 10 hours to less, with fairly small budgets, so none of these games needed to set the world on fire, because they never would. They weren't competing with the big players, and they had no reason to. But also, we live in a time now where not everyone can afford an $80 or $70 Donkey Kong game. Okay, some people would be perfectly happy with a Jimmy Neutron game that cost half as much, that went for 10 hours and didn't consume up 60 hours of your life. That's a complete steal and a very justifiable expense. Their relationship was working so well that in 2004 they extended their contract together. Staffers were up early again this morning when THQ announced it had locked down an existing license deal with Viacom brand and Nickelodeon, extending an existing master license through 2010. The exclusive worldwide partnership grants THQ rights to continue to publish games based on all existing and future animated TV and movie properties targeting kids ages 6 to 14 across all viable game systems. Variety has estimated the deal cost THQ more than $75 million, though neither party specified the amount today. The license was set to expire next year. In addition to news of the extension, a feather in THQ's cap as the company drives some 16% of its revenue from Nick-branded games. Companies added some premium Nick brands to the lineup of properties that will soon surface in the game space. Nickelodeon properties that are new to THQ game pipelines are The Barnyard Movie, a joint Paramount Picture and Nickelodeon movie theatrical release due later this year, as well as the Danny Phantom and Evergirl brands. THQ expects to bring games based on these licenses to the market on numerous but unspecified platforms. Calling THQ a great partner to date, Nickelodeon and Viacom Consumer Products President Leigh Ann Brodsky elaborated, saying in a statement, "Since the inception of our partnership in 1998, THQ and Nickelodeon have pioneered kids gaming, releasing 6 #1 titles and selling through more than 20 million units worldwide." GameSpot. Big news, Peter. Another day, another license.
We are very excited to announce the renewal of our long-term relationship with Nickelodeon. Our relationship with Nick has been one of the most successful relationships in the video game business, and securing Nick through 2010 is a big win for THQ.
This marks THQ's commitment to the mass market as even more pronounced. Is that so?
Nick is the dominant player in kids content, with a tremendous track record of generating premier kids programming. THQ is the dominant player in kids gaming, and as we head into the mass market phase of the current console cycle, we're only now tapping the kids and family marketplace. The best is yet to come.
The Nick license has proved essential to contributing to the company's top line, with the renewal costing THQ a reported $75 million. One has to wonder what value there is to say for merely being victorious in securing the license. Why does THQ see such value in the Nick license?
First, we don't comment on the specific financial terms of our agreements. With respect to its value, Nick is one of the most sought-after licenses in the business because they generate hit programming that provides a predictable and recurring revenue stream.
Do you still see Nick-based games as contributing heavily to the company's top line?
We're estimating that approximately 15% of our fiscal 2005 revenues will come from the titles under the Nick Master Agreement. That's more than $100 million this year alone. There aren't many $100 million pieces of a business available these days.
How do you read their strengths?
If you look at history, Nickelodeon's ability to identify, develop, and market kids content is unparalleled. Rugrats, SpongeBob, and Fairly OddParents are just a few of the brands we've published games for over the years.
Can you bring us up to speed on units sold, past and future?
In total, we've sold 20 million units across 10 Nickelodeon brands. In the future, we'll continue to build on some of those brands while introducing more new properties into the interactive space, including Barnyard, Danny Phantom, and Evergirl. Evergirl? What the fuck? I don't know what the fuck Evergirl is.
Of the total number of SKUs planned for calendar year 2005, how many will be based on the Nick license?
We haven't confirmed plans for calendar 2005, but approximately 20 to 25% of our SKUs for fiscal 2005, which ends March 31st, are based on Nick properties.
Thanks, Peter. They'd both found something that worked. That was, until THQ collapsed in 2012.
I'm Ryan McCaffrey for IGN News. A difficult and sad chapter of beleaguered game publisher THQ's history is over, and a new chapter has begun. Chapter 11. The Southern California-based publisher of games like Saints Row, WWE, Company of Heroes, Darksiders, Warhammer, and others filed for bankruptcy today and entered into an asset purchase agreement with affiliates of investment firm Clearlake Capital Group to, quote, acquire substantially all of the assets of THQ's operating business, including THQ's 4 owned studios and games in development,
leaving Nick without a place for its games. We've talked at length about the effects of Nickelodeon's then head Simazagami. I don't want to put too much blame on her, but I definitely think it is fair to say, due to the evidence of how important a diverse show catalogue and video game listings was prior to her arrival, and then the complete decimation of all shows and the entirety of the video game space, that Simma did not understand or simply did not value the gaming space. This could also be due to the loss of THQ, and suddenly a very well-oiled machine suddenly broke, and the concept of rebuilding it just wasn't worth the effort to a company that was pivoting its focus nearly entirely to SpongeBob. But SpongeBob was their big moneymaker, and they had a new movie coming out in a few years that they needed to advertise and make some extra cash on, which was still a common practice at the time to have a video game tie in with the movie. So they began searching around, and in only a few short months,
Activision picks up SpongeBob SquarePants game rights. Nickelodeon and Activision Publishing have announced a new multi-year and multi-title deal that gives the Call of Duty company rights to develop and publish games featuring SpongeBob SquarePants. Terms of the deal were not divulged. THQ, which went bankrupt last year, was the former publisher of SpongeBob games. The first game to be published through the new Activision Nickelodeon deal will be SpongeBob SquarePants Plankton's Robotic Revenge. The game will launch on October 22nd for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii, Wii U, DS, and 3DS. A third-person co-op game from Behavior Interactive, Naughty Bear, Plankton's Robotic Revenge follows Sheldon J. Plankton as he attempts to steal the famous Krabby Patty secret formula, with the help of evil robots. Gamers can play as SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Sandy, or Mr. Krabs in the game.
They had found their new darling. Nickelodeon and Activision joined a new licensing agreement. The details on this are very scarce, but we can infer that the deal was only a 3-year contract, with probably an expectation for a tie-in game for the upcoming movie, and at least allowances for one more, if not more, other games. Obviously, we only got the 2 main games. We'll come back to the details of the contract later. Plankton's Robotic Revenge was announced at the same time as the announced deal between Nick and Activision, immediately kicking off a wave of speculation from fans that we were getting a Battle for Bikini Bottom sequel game. This expectation was what really sunk the ship overall for this game. We'll get into that a bit more in a second. Developed by Behavior Interactive, beloved developers of such games as the Peanuts movie game, but also some proper titles like Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Fallout Shelter, and Dead by Daylight.
My name is Tom Kenny, and since the very beginning of SpongeBob, I have been the voice of SpongeBob. Ow! And Gary, and Patsy the Pirate. We are recording the audio for a new Activision game called SpongeBob SquarePants Plankton's Robotic Revenge. Really fun game, really fun game.
Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
Plankton is trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula, and he's using a robot which he's built from a battery that fell into the ocean.
In the game, Patrick actually plays a pretty active role in trying to be engaged in the plan making, and which is not typical for him.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
Okay, I'm not being mean to the cast. Clearly, someone from Activision just stuck a camera in their face and told them to advertise a game they didn't understand and didn't know anything about. They were just reading lines for, and hence you get something like this, where they're just completely confused, all of them, about whatever the hell this thing is, apart from the fact that it's a video game and it's by Activision and they're being told to advertise it. You can just tell there's just no communication going on here at all. They have no idea what the hell this is. I feel really bad for them.
When I'm recording for a video game versus the television show, I would say video games are more aerobic. I am ready to chop some clanker! There's so much action, and you wouldn't think about it, but you have to bring that physicality into your sound.
The show's a little, easier to take. It's in small bursts. You do a little bit at a time. But the video games are like, epic. It's like a movie script every time.
It's very disjointed to do games because you're just doing your lines by themselves, and it's just you talking, and you have to cover all the possible choices that the player is going to do.
When we do the episodes and movies, we're all together. It's full cast. Everybody's there, and you're performing the script like a radio play, like an audio play.
I am constantly shocked at the extent that Plankton will go to get that Krabby Patty recipe.
I don't know what purpose Plankton's life would have if he ever did achieve that goal. It's kind of like a dog chasing a car. You look at a dog chasing a car and you go, if the dog catches a car, what's he going to do with it?
Get back here with me, safe, Plankton!
Well, what are you waiting for? Go get that Krabby Patty formula back from Plankton!
Good night.
Another one down. Another one down. Tap the jump button twice to double jump.
The game, by all merits, is simply shovelware. And I say that with a great deal of love, as I've played through it a handful of times. It's the type of game you'd be pleasantly surprised to play on the Nickelodeon website. It had some fun levels, but in reality was an entirely mindless, pretty rough around the edges experience. It was critically panned by reviewers, IGN giving it a 3.5 out of 10, with most others giving it around 5 out of 10. But these are also the same people that gave Cosmic Shake a 5, so who gives a fuck what they think. Fans felt betrayed and let down. With a name like that, it's pretty fair to see that fans would think this is something when in reality, it's nothing. Sales-wise, there are very few accurate accounts, but we can deduce that it must have at least broken even perhaps sold okay, as they obviously made a follow-up game. I do remember Robotic Revenge being on the store shelves a bunch back in the day. I purchased it physically and I would see it around constantly. I can't say that about Rehyrdated, which I don't think I ever saw physically at any game stores. Rehyrdated barely needs any consideration here. I mean, come on. It has reached that hallowed, most sacred position of being the unifying experience. Go to any comment section for a random SpongeBob game review or discussion, and you'll see someone, at least one person, saying, well, at least it isn't Rehyrdated.
Bubbles the talking dolphin! Someone is using the last page from a magic book to make weird things happen, like this.
Run for our lives! Prepare to be vanquished!
Nope, this isn't freaky at all. Invincible!
Feel the power of my clarinet. I could get used to being this high. I could make $1,000,000.
Mr. Super Awesomeness!
Awesome.
It is truly the one thing that all SpongeBob fans can agree on. And for that, I thank you, Hero Pants. Namaste. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Most people don't actually understand that because they haven't played it. Now, this game sold hundreds, maybe even dozens of copies. It was an absolute disaster. Good job making a movie tie-in game with a different name, you dingus. This game apparently only sold like 20,000 copies on the Xbox. Dude, more people watch our investigations than bought the brand new SpongeBob game. And we were living in the absolute darkest, driest, deadest time of the SpongeBob content, okay? No one wanted it, no matter how long it had been since we had another game. Now, to discuss some of the thoughts by the community, we reached out to the community. If you would ever like to be featured in an investigation, we do posts on the little community tab where we ask you guys different questions, stuff like that, and you can be featured on an episode. USB Stack Smash says, I remember playing SpongeBob Hero Pants on my 3DS when I was around 11 years old. I bought the game because it seemed like a cool platformer based on Sponge Out of Water, and it was only the digital SpongeBob game available for the platform, so I bought it. The gameplay was boring, the level designs were confusing, and everything felt extremely cheap. Nothing was properly textured, and it was all just choppy and rough around the edges. There was also this really dumb gimmick where you need certain characters to pass certain areas of stages, but switching characters meant quitting and completely restarting the entire stage, making it just drag. There weren't switching stations like in Atlantis SquarePants DS. I remember even back then thinking that I really wanted to like this game, but I just couldn't, as it was just no fun. Just another tune, dude. 06 says, I had a blast playing Plankton's Robotic Revenge with my siblings on the Wii, but it was kind of simple and repetitive. I had a very similar reaction. I remember playing with my brother all the time. Same time as we were playing the Adventure Time Into the Dungeon or whatever it was called. It was fun enough for that. Hero Pants was a... Bay Law Diamond 8819 says, I didn't hate Plankton's Robotic Revenge. Hero Pants sucked though. We also reached out on the Bikini Bomb Inquirer Discord. If you would like to support our investigations and support what we do here, you can become a member for $2 a month, and you can jump up on the Discord with us, chat with us, help us put together these investigations, give us your thoughts, and suggest new ones. Local S'mores Pop Tart says, as for the Activision era of SpongeBob games, I only ever finished Plankton's Robotic Revenge. I thought it was really boring. I remember I was part of the group who got really excited for it because I was hoping it would be a BFBB successor. I haven't played in ages though, so maybe it's a bit better than I remember. Hero Pants I own and have played it a bit, but I haven't played enough to say if it's better or worse than its predecessor. An interesting thing about Robotic Revenge though is that it had 5-person multiplayer on Wii U. I'm also pretty sure Hero Pants is the only Nickelodeon game on the PS Vita, which is very true and quite interesting. I would be keen to get it on the PS Vita myself. Even, you know, it's bad, but who cares? Realistically, it's very similar to Robotic Revenge. I think it's mostly fine. It's a 4 out of 10. I'll never play it again, or think about it again. It's just a rougher and more rushed game than Revenge. Clipping issues to broken mechanics, the game isn't functional. That's the big thing. Like, it looks rough. It looks worse than PS2 games. Fred5107, the GOAT. If nobody got me, I know Fred got me. He made a video going over like 100 issues of the game. Check it out. And it isn't as screamy as most of the videos about this game were back then. Go watch it, and while you're there, watch all of his videos. They're classics. The game has reached such legendary status that discussion around it is purely pointless. That is until someone like Bikini Bomb Inquirer's own Who Needs Normal uncovers some history around it. Not too long ago, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was in a similar position, but once he shed light on the development, the developers as people, and the issues they encountered, people became a lot more open to discussion about the game. I'm not saying it's worth it, but in truth, it's just a piece of shovelware, on the same level as half the stuff that was released on the Wii. I think the community's emotions towards Hero Pants reflect more on their anger at the situation and the treatment of the brand, more than the fact that anyone was surprised that it was bad. This was the dark ages of the SpongeBob community. So much so, it's hard to even explain to some of the younger or newer faces within the community. To give you an idea, there was only really 3 or maybe 4 content creators at this time that was giving any SpongeBob games any attention. The show had fallen off so hard that it had reached the state that strikes fear into any big company. No one cared, really. People didn't even care enough to complain about it at that stage. The kids watched it, sure. The movies did well, sure. But there was no discussion. People in my age demographic hadn't reached the nostalgic stage where we wanted to start making video essays and discussions and talking about the show at length. The show was simply disappearing, and the treatment of the games is a really clear sign of this. Activision didn't care. Nickelodeon didn't care. We didn't care. Behavior Interactive, a very capable studio, obviously didn't care. This was all while season 8 of the show was airing and the viewership was down. And I've looked into the kind of top people in charge of this game. They're really well-credited careers, long-lasting careers, worked on heaps of stuff. Like they're big players. This wasn't done by a terrible team. It was done by a team that didn't care. And also, obviously, did not have as much time. You know, they made a much better product a little bit ago. They just did not have the time. They didn't have the space. They didn't have the budget. It was shovelware. True and simple. But then 2016 rolls around, the end of the contract. We know that's only 3 years, as Fred5107 covered the topic in August of 2016.
There is a possibility that Activision have lost any future access to the SpongeBob license. Now, I want to make this clear, this is not confirmed, I just have evidence that might suggest that. Man the light bulb! Those of you that follow me on Twitter saw me post about this back in like April. So basically, Plankton's Robotic Revenge and Hero Pants have been removed from the PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and Nintendo eShop. All digital versions of those two Activision games can no longer be purchased.
So the games were removed in April. This is about 2 months earlier than the announcements of the partnership that had happened in June 3 years prior. But they may have simply removed them due to no sales, cost of upkeep, and knowing that the license would be up soon. But as we know that Robotic Revenge was announced at the same time, the deal may have been struck sometime before the announcement, so the dates do line up more or less. So this is a clear indication of Activision losing or deciding to not renew their license with Nickelodeon. THQ was making a lot of money from the deal, but they were pumping out countless titles each year. Activision went with an entirely different route, a much more modern route, but a route that doesn't actually work with a brand like Nickelodeon and the budgets that they allow. But then, in the moment we need them most,
Hey guys, Alicia here with IGN News and a name change for you. Nordic Games has rebranded and will be henceforth known as THQ Nordic. The main reason for the change comes down to the portfolio of THQ IP the company owns. The rebrand is, in a nutshell, to show fans that Nordic is serious about breathing new life into their acquired IPs. Back when it was called just plain old Nordic Games, the publisher acquired several THQ IPs during April of 2013.
Only a few months later, in August of 2016, Nordic Games changed their name to THQ Nordic, after their parent company acquired the rights to the trademark in 2014. This was done in an attempt to capitalize off the good name that THQ still had. Despite their decades of grinding out slop, apparently this is why they kept the Nordic part of their name, as they didn't want to be wholly associated with THQ due to their troubled history. This announcement started the most speculation. If you were around on YouTube at that time, I was making videos, other people making videos, there was so much speculation about what was going to happen next. And it took 2 years, in 2018, when THQ Nordic announced a partnership with Nickelodeon. This partnership was based on allowing them to re-release 16 Nickelodeon games that had been previously released by THQ. While we haven't seen much from these 16 games, I 100% believe this was more of an attempt for Nordic to get their toe in the door and develop the remake of SpongeBob Bikini Bottom. With its outstanding sales and performance, this obviously opened the door for negotiations on future game developments beyond the remakes. None of these agreements have been made public, but some form of agreement would have been reached in regard to a new licensing deal. Now, why was this all happening? Why now? Oh, right. Yeah, Simmer left the company. Right, okay. Good to know. Good. Entirely unrelated. I wouldn't draw a conclusion there. Brian Robbins, the new president of Nickelodeon, has had an assorted career himself, being the head that has brought us all of these remakes, the worst seasons in living memory, the worst movies, CGI. But unlike Simmer, he has had a wider understanding and appreciation for nostalgia, and the need to have a wider portfolio of content just beyond SpongeBob. And the leap back into video games should be considered a real victory, especially with how amazing they've been. All in all, Nickelodeon's return to the gaming space has been a fantastic revival to the SpongeBob community, and has kept it at the forefront of debate, discussion, reviews, content, streams, and interest. THQ Nordic is clearly benefiting greatly from the renewed interest, and so is Nickelodeon, as they're showing no sign of stopping. But it's important in times like this to remember that it wasn't too few years ago that the very concept of Nickelodeon ever dipping its toes back into the video game space was laughable. It felt very much like the golden age of Nickelodeon had passed us by. Little did we know what was going to happen next.
What be going on over here? Coming through top speed, let me stand clear. Ooh, know you better beware or step to the rear. We about to blast, better prepare. Excitement, yes. I hope you know we come through to cause chaos like Darth Vader. Don't on your radar, on the downhill racing. I'm holding my head. The situation made me paro. Check what the choice said. I am Reptar, hear me roar. I am Reptar, the king of dinosaurs. Oh yeah, for sure. I done got my clothes dirty, still racing downhill like we do in the buck 30. Oh, my name is Herbie. The race car caught up inside the demolition derby. Reptar, you must be really losing the screw because I think we're losing control of what we gonna do. Tell me what we gonna do, check it. What are we doing and where we gonna go? So fast when the blow dry your ass.